So for those of you who don't know, I just want to spend like 1 or 2 minutes just to give you a very quick introduction to EcoSynthetix, what we do. We're a global biopolymers provider to the industry. Something that's core to our offerings that we're bringing to the market today is that we use a reactive extrusion process, and that allows us to take fairly low-value feedstock materials like polysaccharides derived from corn, tapioca, or other agricultural products, and upgrade them to higher value materials that we generally refer to as engineered biopolymers, which are then usually designed to displace synthetic materials. And the kind of products we displace are dependent on the market that we're going after. For instance, we've had our earlier success was in coated paper applications, and that's what we're still generating a lot of our revenue from. But in this case, we're taking a polysaccharide from corn, we're modifying it, and it turns out it's very effective and efficient at displacing styrene butadiene latex products in coated paper applications. And we've been commercial in that since about 2007, so we've had a very nice experience with that. Economic, performance, sustainability. Those are kind of like the overriding value proposition elements that are important for that industry. But now, over the last couple of years, we realized that the coated paper industry in itself it's under a lot of pressure, under a lot of cost pressure, under a lot of rationalization pressure. And so we were also looking at other market adjacencies where the technologies that we had developed in the former could be used in other growth segments. And we focused on wood composites and a particular segment of wood composites that's called no added formaldehyde. And you'll see why we chose that as I move through. But what's interesting here is that the drivers are a little bit different from what we saw in the coated paper side. The key value proposition elements here are driven around health and ecological benefits. Again, performance is kind of like table stakes. If you don't have the right performance, you're not even going to displace the incumbent materials. And there's a big, strong economic driver. The kinds of products that are used in traditional wood composites used for binders are formaldehyde-based systems and isocyanate-based binders. And they're very, very efficient and effective, have been used for many, many years. But they do have a couple of downsides, which I'll elaborate on. So, as I mentioned, why did we elect to pursue wood composites? Well, we knew it was a very, very large market. There are wood composites used all around us. If you just look around the room today, they're used everywhere. And so we thought that this would be a good target for us because there were some analogies to the coated paper application, and I'll show you why. The one consequence, if you look at wood composites, is that by virtue of the existing technologies that are used today, that means we're kind of surrounded with formaldehyde-emitting articles. And that's because up to about 10 weight percent of binder product is used for formaldehyde systems in wood composites, like medium density fiberboard. Also, we use the oriented strand board, plywood, and particle board. Those are some of the very common and high volume wood composite applications. So that we thought would be an opportunity for us to pursue. And as we looked at it, even before we started doing the actual development work, we said, well, let's have a look at the marketplace. We know that formaldehydes are generally considered hazardous materials, and they are under quite a bit of regulation in all in all of the continents. There's some form of for formaldehyde-based regulation, strongest in North America through the CARB, California Air Resources Board group. But our hypothesis was that we could build and develop a very compelling value proposition where it would center around the displacement of formaldehyde. And it would be, we thought, driven by performance, price, and sustainability metrics. We had to be equal to or better than the incumbent in all of those attributes. The other thing, and really what I wanted to do here was not so much to share some of the technical research findings, but more to help share some of the learnings that we had during the path to commercialization, because some of those were very, very important in our success, if not equally important to some of the technical performance attributes that we saw. So one of the key things that we realized early on in our investigations was that thankfully there are very strong supporting market drivers. You have agencies like National Cancer Institute and others who have been doing a lot of painstaking work to determine that the long-term impacts of formaldehyde exposure. And it's not a good story for formaldehyde-based systems. Then you also have government agencies, as I already mentioned, the CARB, California Air Resources Board, being the leader in North America, I'd say, for more stringent formaldehyde emissions requirements. And also, the Government of Canada has been also introducing new legislation through its Department of Health, where they've introduced similarly stringent requirements. And equally importantly, if you look at the downstream users of different wood composites panels, the people who are actually making parts, making cribs, making different kinds of panels, like the IKEAs of the world, or the ones who sell enormous amounts of goods, like the Walmarts of the world, they have very, very strong corporate drivers and sustainability metrics for 2020 whereby they want to reduce the amount of hazardous materials. So when you look at the combination of all three of those different elements, you realize there's very, very strong drivers that would support change in this industry. And that was one of the reasons why we were able to get trials at some of our key target customers, the wood panel converter, very, very readily, because there was a lot of motivation in the marketplace. We defined that our objectives, and I'd say that they were really market-driven objectives, was really to try to transform the wood composite industry and introduce our proprietary no added formaldehyde binder solutions. And that is a big task, so where do you start? Well, first thing you want to probably do is look at the market space, and that's what we did. We looked at the particle board segment of wood composites, and it is predominantly, almost exclusively, using formaldehyde binders as opposed to the isocyanate ones. Medium density fiberboard, same thing. The isocyanates are used as binders, but still formaldehyde systems are the predominant one. In oriented strand board, that red slice that you see there is the no added formaldehyde portion of it, which is the based on isocyanate chemistry. So it's not generating formaldehyde, but it's still using isocyanates, which are fairly interesting materials. You have to be careful when you're working with those. In all the other areas, it's formaldehyde based materials. It's about $15 billion of binders that are used per annum on a global basis. And so when we looked at the market in this way, we realized that the the largest share, of course, was formaldehyde, but where was the actual value? It would be to try to displace the smaller share of the isocyanate-based material. It's a higher priced material, and if we could help grow that share at the expense of formaldehyde, that was going to be a very interesting proposition for us. And that is, in fact, what we decided to pursue. So, just a little bit on the technology side. As I mentioned, there are certain table stakes that you have to have when going to these large wood composite converters. And one of them is that you've got to have reasonably your homework done to show that you can meet the performance objectives. And what do they specifically look for? Well, there are a myriad of different requirements that they have, but if you cannot show that your system delivers equal or better internal bond, or equal or better modulus of rupture flexural strength, it's really, really challenging to move forward. So that was kind of our mission, was to first of all gain credibility and work at the lab and the pilot scale facilities to be able to demonstrate that we had something to offer. And in addition to that, there are a number of different process-oriented requirements, but these were the two fundamental ones that we needed to show that we were able to deliver the right kind of performance. Now, this is a sort of a summary slide from probably about 2 years of work at lab and pilot scale, plus introduction of the product at our industrial scale partners and the learnings that we had developed from that. One of the big learnings, longer production uptime. In a typical MDF, medium density fiberboard production line, it uses what's called a blow line. And depending on the kind of chemistry that they're using, those blow lines can become plugged. And when they do become plugged, the downtime is very, very significant. So you can imagine you've got a production line the size of a football field, and then they have to take it down for 6 to 8 hours to clean out these blow lines. And the interesting thing was when they used our bio-based binder in combination with the synthetic one at about 25% substitution, the blow line performance, the downtime was far, far less. And so we didn't look strictly at, let's say the dollar or the dollar per kg equivalent pricing. We looked at value in use, and this turned out to be a very, very significant value driver. Was that we could help them alleviate some of their problems, so they could have more and more uptime. That was one thing. Lower production costs. What we learned there was that in the industrial scale lines that we were working with our customers, you get this thing called platen sticking, where unless you use a lot of release agent, you will tend to get buildup on these platens. And again, it's typical of the isocyanate-based systems that this is a problem. They have to use a lot of release agent. With our systems, the combined system, it proved to be much more effective in alleviating this buildup. Hence, lower needs of release agents, which is again very, very costly. Less waste. One of the interesting things was that they have this thing called squeeze water. This is kind of like the residual water that is coming out of the production process that they use during the manufacture of medium density fiberboard, oriented strand board, and others. Normally, that's a waste, an effluent material, which is usually trucked off and disposed of. That's costly. It actually ends up costing these companies quite a bit amount of money to get rid of something that they don't really want. Our material, we supply it on a dry basis, And we can use the squeeze water product that they have to make our liquid dispersion product. So we were helping, we have the ability to use up a waste stream in a very inexpensive way. So help them alleviate their costs. And then better quality, higher value boards. We help these converters deliver boards which are more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, and that helps them with their marketing that they do to end users. So that was definitely a benefit there. Now, last year was a sort of a watershed year for us in that after a couple of years of doing trialing and various iterations, we did secure our very first customer. The first customer, as you all know, is the hardest one to get. September 2016, that's when we were able to issue the press release. And originally I thought it's going to be with some small company who's willing to take a risk on this new technology. As it turned out, it was the third largest global player in the wood composites industry. So it was one of the 800-pound gorillas that we had been working with, who demonstrated that this technology would work in their wood composites line, and they helped us bring it to commercialization. And then the other last thing that was very, very useful, of course, is to take that excellent outcome that we were all so patiently waiting for and use it as a kind of a customer endorsement for the next challenge to proliferate to our other potential customers. So that was an important milestone for us. Now, I just want to share with you a little bit sort of the path that we were on, because it was a bit of a long journey. It actually started back in the early part of 2012 when we were just scouting which markets made sense for us to pursue after coated paper. And this was ranked high internally in our screening of suitable market applications. Then we started to look to see how high are the hurdles. Each one of these applications have different, what we call CTQs, critical to quality performance requirements. And we judged that this one represented a technology challenge or hurdle that was doable with our system, not with a technology that we just had off the shelf, but we believed we could develop our way into that. A very critical step for us was to get some of the AgSci funding support, and that was helpful in helping us build our wood test lab and also adding in some knowledge experts that we required. Then we really focused on the delivery of the first two milestones of the project, that proposal that we had submitted to BIC and for the AgSci fund, because that would get us to the first stage of commercialization. And that's what we spent almost 2 years with. And then, as I mentioned, we were successful in getting commercialized, but we didn't uncover or solve all of the technology hurdles that we had. And we, in fact, are still working to continue to improve it. And we're working through BIC and its new ComSci program to address some very, very specific technology hurdles that we need some outside assistance with. So this slide just basically says it's a large opportunity. Now that we've got our first customers, we're able to extrapolate that technology across a wide range of different opportunities. The other learning for us was these are the top 20 customers, potential customers for us. And if you look at the total market capacity of each of these, it's highly, highly concentrated marketplace. And we like that. EcoSynthetix is not so well positioned to go after highly fragmented markets where you've got thousands of customers, but give us a market where you've got 20 key customers. That's one that is of interest to us. So just to sort of close out, those were some of the high-level learnings that we had. I think this particular project has really helped us transform the company, EcoSynthetix, into a new global leader for technologies that are contributing significantly to the no added formaldehyde wood composites industry. And the rest is just sort of a thumbnail summary of who we are and what some of our key capabilities are. But just like to say in conclusion, we're very thankful for the support that we had through BIC. And it really helped us open up our second major technology platform.